Have you ever watched an Argentina match and thought, why does this feel like church? I mean, people cry, they sing in unison like it's a hymn. They swear loyalty for life. And when the team wins, whole cities move like one giant organism. So here's the shock question. How did a sport become the closest thing to a religion for an entire country? If you want to understand Argentina's football devotion, you don't start with Messi. You start with the club, because in Argentina, clubs aren't just teams. They're social institutions rooted in neighborhoods, with memberships, activities, and a deep sense of belonging. That idea isn't romantic poetry. It shows up in serious reporting and research that describes sports clubs as community spaces woven into Argentina's social fabric. This club culture grew alongside modern Argentina. Football arrived through British influence in the late 19th century and spread rapidly through schools and communities, eventually becoming part of everyday life. And by 1893, Argentina already had a national association structure. AFA officially traces its founding to February 21, 1893. So, for a lot of families, supporting a club isn't a weekend hobby. It's inheritance. It's my dad took me, his dad took him, and these colors are ours. Now, if the neighborhood club is the altar, the next question is, what's the belief system? What exactly are people believing in when they treat football like faith? That's where national identity enters the story. Over time, Argentine football became more than entertainment. It became a cultural signifier, a way to talk about who Argentines are and who they want to be. Academic work on La Nostra, a term often used to describe an Argentine style and identity around football, examines how the game became deeply ingrained in society and tied to national identity narratives across the 20th century. And this is where the religion metaphor starts making sense. Religions don't just offer rules, they offer meaning. In Argentina, football offers a story of ingenuity, beauty, suffering, redemption, sometimes all in the same match. Writers like Eduardo Galeano famously played with the idea of football as a kind of worship, using it to talk about power, class, and emotion. You see it in how legends become more than athletes. They become moral stories. Not he scored, but he carried us. Not we lost, but we endured. And then, every few decades, Argentina gets a national moment so intense, it looks like a pilgrimage. 1978, 1986, 2022, titles that FA lists as World Cup wins. But here's the twist. Once something becomes national identity, it becomes political. And that's where the drama, real drama, kicks in. So before we romanticize this too much, we have to talk about the shadow side. If football is Argentina's religion, then it also has its extremists, its gatekeepers, and its battles for control. One name comes up again and again: Barras Bravas. Organized fan groups associated with intimidation, violence, and deep connections to club politics. Reporting has documented the severity of football-related violence in Argentina over decades, including hundreds of deaths tied to football incidents. An academic analysis describes how barras can thrive through networks involving clubs, officials, and political actors. Not just rowdy fans, but a social system. This is the conflict that makes the story gripping. The same stadium that feels like a sacred space can also become a contested territory. And football's political entanglement doesn't stop at the club level. Argentina's 1978 World Cup happened under a military dictatorship. And scholars have analyzed the moral and political tension of that tournament. How nationalism, propaganda, and public feeling collided in a single global event. So yes, football can unify people. But it can also be used, exploited, and fought over. Which brings us to the key question. If there's risk, why doesn't the country step back from football? Because for many Argentines, football isn't a luxury, it's a coping mechanism. Here's what really sets Argentina apart from places where sports are just sports. In Argentina, football often becomes a dependable source of dignity and shared joy, especially when other parts of life feel uncertain. When the economy struggles or politics wear people down, football turns into a space where emotions are allowed to be loud, public, and fully felt. And that's not just a metaphor. You can see it in real life. like the massive crowds that flooded the streets of Buenos Aires after the 2022 World Cup win. On a smaller scale, local football clubs aren't just teams. They're social anchors, places where people belong, stay connected, and feel part of something bigger. For many neighborhoods, the club is the community center. That's why arguments about funding, ownership, or reform get so heated. People aren't just defending a logo or a scoreline, they're defending a social space that matters deeply to their lives. So when people say Argentina treats football like a religion, what they often mean is this. Football ends up filling the same roles religions usually do: community, ritual, identity, hope, and the belief that struggle can still lead to meaning. So now we can finally answer the question directly. Argentina treats football like a religion because it checks almost every box. There are rituals, chants, matchday routines, colors, banners, repeated acts that turn ordinary time into tradition. There's belonging, clubs tied to neighborhoods, families, and local identity, not just brands or businesses. It's myth and memory. National stories built around legendary matches and iconic players retold again and again, like shared scripture. And there's conflict too, from barras bravas to politics, the darker edges that reveal just how powerful football really is. So the short answer isn't that Argentines literally worship football, it's that football became the country's most powerful shared language, one that can comfort people, unite them, divide them, and ultimately help define who they are. Thanks for watching. And if you're interested in more stories where culture looks crazy at first until you understand the logic underneath, you'll find the rest of the series on my channel.